you collect it? What is the optimum time? What temperature? What?
The blood collected is actually different for different individuals. A 40 ml of umbilical cord blood, like after the baby is born, the cord is clamped and the baby is separated and sent for resuscitation. Now whatever blood remains behind in the placenta and the cord is collected. It might be 40 ml, it might be 210 ml. Whatever the amount is collected. And in our laboratory, we try to ensure the rule that the cord blood has to come to us at a temperature of 22 to 24 degrees Celsius within 24 hours. If it comes within 24 hours, we immediately take it to a processing room and we extract about 98 to 99% stem cells from that particular cord blood. Okay?
But how is it done? By a machine separately?
Yes, it is done by two things. One is an automated cell separation, another is a manual one. We've got both the systems, but the automated system can actually separate the stem cells if the collection volume is between 50 to 100 ml. Anything below that or anything above 100 ml cannot be done by that cell separator. So that has to be done manually. And I am more comfortable because these machines were made in USA. And our deliveries where the average birth weight is around 2.2 to 2.8, possibly a few going to 3 kgs, we don't really get the blood which is more than 50, more than 50 ml. So generally the blood comes in around 40, 45, 50. So if this is the volume, you generally trust on your hands. What we do is we centrifuge the whole blood at 10 degrees Celsius and we take out the WBCs. The WBC are the mononuclear cells which are taken out. From that we select the stem cells. After we select them, we put it into a special bag which can withstand a temperature from 40 degrees Celsius to minus 196 degrees Celsius. It's a special bag which is US FDA approved. That bag, we put the stem cells into it, transfer it. After transferring it, we mix it with a cryogenic protective medium. After that, we slowly freeze it. This is the technology that is without killing you freeze the cells. And why the cryogenic medium has been put into it? Because the cell mainly contains 90% is water. And if the water crystallizes, I think anyone you have had this experience, put a glass bottle full of water into the deep freezer, what happens? It cracks. That's because the volume of the ice is more than the volume of the water. The same is going to happen to a cell. If the cell is frozen, the water inside is going to expand and that's going to make the cell crack. But once the cell is frozen, you cannot see the crack because the crack is sealed by the ice. Once you thaw it, the entire cell is going to lose its water and it's going to die. So that is the technology, that how slowly you cool it down such that it remains alive but sleeping at minus 196 degrees, 0.8 degrees Celsius, that's in liquid nitrogen. And we put it down there. Theoretically, it has been said that these cells, if left undisturbed at this temperature, can survive for 10,000 years. But again, it's a statistical regression analysis, I'm not going into it. Fact is, the first stem cell which was collected and stored was in 1942. That was derived from bone marrow. A part of it has been transplanted and used successfully. And the method was very crude in 1942. If those stem cells survive till date, till 2010, I think we can at least make our stem cells survive for 100 years. And 100 years is good enough time.
So what I wanted to ask you, does your center come and collect the blood or we are supposed to collect it?
Ma'am, it actually depends on you. If you feel that you want to collect it, you collect it.
In what do we collect?
They collect the cord blood and the cord.
In what?
In a special bag which contains an anticoagulant and a nutritive medium, such that the cells don't die in transit.
It's supplied by you?
Yes. The entire box for the collection is supplied by us because you remember I told you that the cord or the cord blood has to reach our facility at 22 to 24 degrees Celsius. It might be in the height of summer, it might be in the coldest of winters, but that is maintained within that box which is validated. So that is what is actually prescribed by us.
Very last, very wonderful lectures and thought-provoking given. Just the last 10 years, the two technology have revolutionized what the one. One is your stem cell therapy, second is the nanotechnology. These two you are very good. Regarding the stem cell therapy and cardiac practice, now it is not a big now it is a practical, particularly for the most of the myocardial degeneration after the loss of dilated cardiomyopathy, ischemic cardiomyopathy, lot of practical centers, so many data has come up. Even in India, in All India Institute of Postgraduate, they have set up stem cell unit for particularly the bicycle. Actually, we all have came to know after this Chief Minister, Yogi, he had having a severe paraplegia, and even the stem cell therapy for neurons that has been tried, partially successful. So I think this technology for this year, this decades, will be on the sector. And regarding in the Western country, after labor room, every labor there is a practice for keeping the this blood in the routine. So many countries have given this that after born of baby they will keep this blood or so that because it seems to be a miracle. But yes, there are some in Chennai they have used Cornwall, almost father of cardiology. He has given a wonderful.
हाँ हम लोग सुन नहीं पा रहे हैं अब वहाँ जाके बोलिए नहीं तो
यूज द माइक सब सुनेंगे
Such a wonderful topic Dr. Saab has provoked that stem cell therapy, what I was telling, that two technology have revolutionized last 10 years. One is the stem cell therapy and second is the nanotechnology. Similarly, nanotechnology have in the drug delivery systems, in the practicals, genetics, and all the newer books is full of end treatment lies in this. Whether it is stem cell, every treatment ends in stem cell and some form of the nano. What I am telling you now in gynae practice in throughout the world, most of the advanced centers are now after labor this cord blood, keeping the cord blood is making it mandatory and keeping so that all treatment should lie in future their cord blood will because bone marrow versus cord blood stem cells. Cord blood is far superior than bone marrow regarding the outcomes of this. And regarding cardiological practice, just in Chennai last year, we have a huge discussion by Dr. Eugene Braunwald, who is authority of cardiology for that. And he has provoked us that you all should go for this stem cell because future is this stem cell treatment. Whether it is a myocardial after thrombosis, after degeneration, after dilatation, even all type of generation is there. Only thing is that what we are waiting that we need a lot of data, the outcomes, initial response is, but after 5 to 10 years of follow-up, whether that myocardiums after 2 years of follow, 3 years follow, it remains the same or the again fibrotic or change. That part we have to do, that's why. And second, in India, the government have a particular research product, two center, usually AIIMS have a special stem cell unit, they are working very well. In Chennai also they have started so many treatment. In Calcutta also they have a plan for establishment. So hope that this decade will be on the practical level, on the ground level.
Cost of collection and storage per patient.
But the cost of total bag,
One someone first. I don't think you heard him. He's asking about the cost of storage.
So collection and storage.
The collection and storage, the entire cost comes to around 1700 rupees for 24 months.
And
1700 rupees for 24 months.
Or 40 available.
No.
You have to keep for 80 years, not 70 years. That 1 year the
Storage fee comes along later on. The storage fee is 30 rupees per month. 300 rupees per month.
70 years.
Till whatever time you want to carry on. It's not a question of 70 years, 30 years, 40 years. It's a question like the child whose cord blood is being collected today. If it is my child, my wife is the guardian of the cord blood and the stem cells till the child becomes an adult. Once the child becomes an adult, he renews the contract. So it can go on storing, so there is no question about it. And sir, number two is the question is not about 40-50 ml. It's the total volume that is there, entire volume. And this covers not only the cord blood but also the cord tissue. I didn't talk about it, but the cord tissue, the cord which is there, it actually contains 4 types of stem cells. It's a covering of the amniotic membrane that contains the epithelial stem cells. The Wharton's jelly contains mesenchymal stem cells. The arteries and veins, the covering of it contains the perivascular stem cells, which can very easily differentiate into blood vessels. And of course, inside the vein, you've got the blood, which contains the other stem cells, which I told you. Now we have got the technology at your doorstep, that's in Kolkata itself. We can differentiate all these cells and we can maintain it. So that's the facility. Like I'd like to invite you from the dais. All of you can come along one day to our laboratory and have a look what it is like. And to conclude with him, he said the example of Mr. Ajit Yogi. I'd like to tell you, we always want to highlight Ajit Yogis. We don't want to highlight Priyaranjan Dashmunchis. So our therapy should be more Ajit Yogis and less Priyaranjan Dashmunchi, because one is a success story, other one is a failure story. So we don't want a success story where 199 have failed and 1 have become a success and we start hailing we've got a very good success. It's not that. The ependymal stem cells which were taken from Mr. Ajit Yogi worked, but the same periependymal stem cells for Priyaranjan Dashmunchi doesn't work. But what was shown was that because these are adult stem cells, it didn't work. If he had embryonic or fetal stem cells, it should have worked.
Suppose adults require...
1 minute, ma'am.
In India at present, apart from rheumatology, malignancy, what are the treatments that is actually possible from stem cells, therapies or transplantations?
All the transplantations, all the whole spectrum is possible.
In India?
Transplantation, yeah. Transplantation, Vellore is doing it, CMC. Then Tata Memorial Hospital is doing it, All India Institute is doing it, ARMS Medical Corps Pune is doing it. These are the 4 centers I know of who are doing it for transplants.
Ahmedabad is doing.
Ahmedabad is also doing it.
Professor Tripati is there, HL Tripati is
Yeah.
there.
But for therapy, till date, no one is doing it predictively in an environment that we want it to be done. Because what everyone is trying to play God. That means you've got the whole amount of stem cell, it's a cocktail. You don't know which works for what. You take the whole cocktail and inject it down and you feel it's going to go to the brain and regenerate the brain. It's also going to go to the heart because it's a totipotential stem cell. If you've got a toothache also, so at the same time while regenerating the myocardium, it regenerates a small tooth in the heart, so it's going to create a havoc. So that is not the whole idea. The idea is to predictively differentiate stem cells, to control it, to harness it. That means if you want to regenerate the brain cells, you separate the CD133 positive cells. Take it, give it where? Give it in the epidural such that it goes to the brain and to the spinal cord and regenerates it. The local therapy is very important. So as far as the Indian scenario for therapy is concerned, it's not yet up to the world mark. Whatever has been done, nothing has been published in scientific journals. So I'm not going to tell you about the Indian scenario. I'm going to tell you about the world scenario. Okay, possibly a couple of years from now it's going to come to India, but till date the therapeutic scenario for stem cells in India is not mature.
I am an ENT specialist. A lot of people come to me with complaining of a lot of degenerative process like sensory neural hearing loss. And he used to say it's untreatable, we give some neurotropic vitamins, antioxidants and say take hearing aid like that. Is it possible to take sensory neural hearing loss through stem cell therapy?
If it's a structural loss of cells, structural loss of nerves, it can be regenerated, but if the autoimmune mechanism which is causing it has been taken care of. Otherwise, once you give the cells, it is going to regenerate. After that, the autoimmune mechanism which worked on the original nerves is going to degenerate the newly formed nerves also. So that is one question. And a second part of it is, it can be regenerated through umbilical cord blood stem cells for that person only, because that person's T lymphocytes which are there are so naive that it hasn't interacted with the environment. So that can remodulate the immune system to bring it to normal, where the mesenchymal stem cells can regenerate the neurons. Because one report will be coming up in the coming year where we've done a study on Duchenne muscular dystrophy. So Duchenne muscular dystrophy, if this is a model, so if that it works on one model, it's supposed to work on the other model also. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm a plastic surgeon. There's a lot
I know you very well.
There's a lot of talk in plastic surgical circles regarding fat grafting and fat being the stem cell of the future. What's your take on that? And another thing I want to say is that there should be a word of caution when, as you said, these things are treated like some miracles. Because I had a paraplegic patient who had come in with a huge bed sore, and every day he would show me the newspaper cutting where he had read about stem cells and kept trying to ask me where to send him and what to do. So I think there should be a word of caution also, especially in the lay press, for lay persons who do not realize that these things are still very, very new.
I was hearing you, ma'am. I'm searching for a slide which I want to show everyone. Does that suit your, okay. You can see it's an 82-year-old male. He had tegaderm transplant. Tegaderm is the commercial name for the skin that we prepare from the mesenchymal stem cells being transformed into epithelial stem cells. This was a prepared skin from his granddaughter's umbilical cord. It was transplanted, and now you can see the result from the 15 weeks no healing, day 20, day 40 and day 45 at the bottom. There is one more example. This is a skin with soft tissue injury in a female who had a road traffic accident. That's on day 0, day 5, day 10, day 15, day 21 and day 23. You can still see the external fixator device which is coming out. So if you consider it a good news for plastic surgeons, I think it is a good news. But the problem again is, today whom you're going to treat doesn't have their stem cells. And the problem here, why I consented to this 82-year-old male person taking the cord blood, just thinking that a skin is going to get rejected at around 6, 7, 10 years is the life of the skin graft which has been given. Because it's from his granddaughter. His life is, he is 82 years old now. In another 10 years, he will possibly not be here in this world. So we won't have to hear about the ulcer reappearing. But if you're going to do it for a child or for a person like me, I should have my own stem cells. Because otherwise this thing is not going to stay. It's going to slop off after about maximum 10 years. There is a good thing that we realized after doing it. At first, when we were regenerating the skin, we had many stem cells, and then we started doing it. After 7 subcultures, we could not maintain it as a sheet, it was breaking out. Then we had another medium which we tried, and then we got a sheet of cells which we could recultivate for 20 subcultures. We got the stem cells, we put it on the skin, but it was not regenerating skin. Then the stratum corneum was there, but the stratum germinativum had not come up. So it was never getting fixed to the bottom because the capillaries weren't developing. That was the worst part. Then we came up with the right proportion of skin producing stem cells, that is epithelial stem cells, terminally differentiated and undifferentiated in the same media like a sandwich. Those 3 layers when put together, it could negotiate with the capillary below because it produced a factor known as angiogenesis factor, which stimulated the capillaries from below to come up and have the blood vessel connection such that that skin stayed. Now this person had 84 years old, 2 years he is into that engraftment and he is okay.
But there is bone exposed here from your pictures.
This is the lady, her bone is exposed from the picture.
So then you just took the graft on the bone itself?
Yes, this was a composite skin which we made. The lower layer not only contain the epithelial stem cells but also contain the mesenchymal stem cells, which regenerate the fat layer as well as the muscle. But again, to tell you, this is not magic. If you tell me to make muscle in a petri dish, I won't be able to do it. I am just harnessing God's own regenerative capacity in the body, making use of the cytokines, interleukins and all these cell factors that are being produced due to the injury, just putting a few stem cells in which can work and waiting for it to regenerate. That is how we are working at present. It's not that we are making a heart in a petri dish and giving it to you for a cardiac transplant.
But this lady was 30, whose stem cells did you use?
No, this lady's daughter's stem cell was with us.
If we need stem cells, what are we going to do?
We'd rather take it from your peripheral blood if you're so interested. We can take it from your peripheral blood.
Dental pulp.
Yeah, but those tooth which contain the stem cells aren't with you anymore, because that you lost at the age of 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, apart
The
from
dental pulp is the deciduous tooth which we collect.
apart from the umbilical cord, also we can take these stem cells from the two of conception.
From?
From that embryo, but after the 2 weeks of conception, you can take the stem cells. Because there is around the 2 weeks of the concept after conception. There is 200 cells around the media. From there, they collect.
That is actually, sir, used for embryal biopsy. And from those 2 cells, you can't really grow all the other cells that is required. And number 3, most important is, it has been proved now that if you do an embryal biopsy, the embryal biopsy might land that person up with a mandibulo-limb dysgenesis. That means this portion might not develop. So no one takes that risk now. Now what they're thinking about is collecting fetal stem cells from the maternal circulation, which actually leaks out during the fetal-maternal bleed during pregnancy. That is being tried, but the problem is the cells which are there are actually exfoliated skin cells. Most of them are dead, and dead cells won't regenerate other cells. But definitely there are 2 more issues with this. Like there is a joke in USA, when a very fat lady is going into a liposuction clinic, a friend of hers comes in and says, "Where are you going? I told you you are fat, so now you are going to the liposuction clinic." So the lady says, no, actually I am going in to store my stem cells. So adipocytes are the very good sources of stem cells, but they have not yet been explored in that way. No, ma'am is, no. You would, the amount of which you got will not suffice. Okay, but the hair follicles, again, the hair which falls out, the hair follicles also contains about just 5 to 6 stem cells per hair. Even that has been tried out commercially. Like production of stem cells actually requires 90% live stem cells, and the minimum amount of stem cells that is required per inoculum in a culture media is actually 1 into 10 to the power of 3. That means 1,000 stem cells are supposed to be alive when you inoculate it. Otherwise you cannot get a culture. So that's what we haven't overcome as yet. And another thing we haven't overcome is how to make old stem cell young again. So once that is done, I think all the problems will be solved.
I think adipocytes, the thing is that they can survive in very adverse circumstances, and you can get a good fat harvest.
Yes.
It's been done clinically without, like when we give a fat graft, we are actually depending on the fat cells surviving in a, maybe a subperiosteal area or a subcutaneous. So we are basically depending on the stem cells, which we never knew till I think.
Now L.V. Prasad Eye Foundation is taking limbal stem cells from the other eye and putting it into a defective corneal perimeter sidewise, and then that is regenerating. But that again runs the risk. If you are taking it from the normal eye, you might cause some injury to the normal eye. So fat cells always, they never run out of nutrition. That's the best part. But again, fat cell has got a problem. Once we try to grow stem cells in culture, we require 20% carbon dioxide at least. And number 2 is 5% sugar medium for the growth. But the fat has got so much nutrition, it doesn't really obey your commands. Once you try to make other cells out of it, it's got so much nutrition. If you don't deprive the stem cells of its nutrition, it never obeys you. That's one big problem. But otherwise, fat cells are good media. Now, even menstrual stem cells have come up. Those are the endometrial shreddings which are coming up. But again, detoxifying of those cells or getting it out of decontaminated is becoming another problem. In breast cancer, it doesn't help. It helps the relapse. That means every breast cancer's malignant cells go to the bone marrow and home. So it is basically a bone marrow transplant which you are doing for a breast cancer. You got to take care of the local malignancy. You got to take care of it with chemotherapy, with surgery, with radiotherapy. After that, if you irradiate the person, give very high dose chemotherapy, wash it out with busulfan, and you give the stem cells, then you've got no chance of relapse. Even in a case of hematological malignancy, let's say for a leukemia, you won't go in for a straight away for a transplant on the first day. You're going to go in for a chemotherapy. What basically, like, this is one concept which is supposed to be very lucid in our minds. Why are we very worried about malignancies, leukemias? We are very worried because with the available chemotherapy, we cannot achieve 100% cell kill, malignant cell kill. If we go in for 100% malignant cell kill, we're going to kill ourselves because there will be the chemotherapeutic medicines cannot identify a stem cell and identify a malignant cell and shoot it. It is going to shoot everyone in the vicinity. So by that you will be killing a lot of normal cells. Now if I have got a bank balance of a few thousand rupees and I go on to play satta with another few thousand rupees, it doesn't matter even if I lose that 1,000 rupees in the satta. I can always take my money from the bank and I can live. So now if I have got a stock of stem cells with me, what I'll do is I'll take a risk of 100% malignant cell kill. If by that 90% of my normal cells get killed, I'm always going to take